Anyone remember when I said that Marathon most likely costed at a bare minimum 250 million to make? And probably after a couple of months, we're going to hear stories about Marathon being as much as 450 or maybe even 500 million to make. Anyone remember that? All the people who said, Quasar, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're an idiot. You have no idea. Guess who was right once again? Absolutely vindicated. Once again, do you see that? Do you see that right there? Now, granted, that is not fully how much Marathon in general has costed. That's just a pretty big number to dedicate how much of a failure Bungie is in a general sense. But still, vindicated once again. Doubters never are getting a payout, boys. Keep sticking with me. I'm right always, baby.
It's been pretty obvious that Bungie has been struggling. Sony spent $3.6 billion on the studio just for them to see out the end of Destiny 2. Marathon was supposed to be a solid title for them for the next few years while they're working on what I would assume is Destiny 3. But PlayStation.
Yes, this is the biggest thing that I have been constantly saying about Bungie. As a business, it's fucking cooked. Because Marathon was supposed to replace Destiny, and day one since Marathon released, we saw that its numbers were not even close to replacing Destiny. So, there was no world where Marathon is a success. And what the hell is Bungie supposed to do now? Some of you know this, because again, I have been drilling this inside your heads for a while, boys. Bungie has nothing. Marathon was supposed to be their thing that they mess around with like 3-4 years, make it stable and blah blah blah, and then good things happen. It's not happening though, is it? Oh yes, they are cooked.
PlayStation has now reported a $765 million impairment loss against
I sneezed.
Bungie after both Destiny and Marathon have underperformed. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content for months we've
By the way, like the video, boys, right now. Takes less than a second, and maybe subscribe. It helps out a lot. Seriously, it does. Everyone who likes the video, you're doing a massive deal for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time and liking the video. Do it right now. It takes less than a second. Like and subscribe. Thank you. I really do appreciate it.
heard the chuds were wrong and the chuds were overreacting about Marathon's failure, and clearly Bungie was doing good. At least that is what we were told, but the lie detector has determined.
Bro, Tuesday's Marathon video, I found the greatest tweet of all time. It was the Marathon GG channel on Twitter saying, well, we can't actually look at the SteamDB numbers because you need to understand, you gullible chud. Bungie has way better metrics inside their company to actually judge how good the game is performing. I'm gonna go so absolutely hard on that on Tuesday. Oh boys, it's gonna be great. Maybe tomorrow, because we don't, again, things are changing, boys, so maybe some funny stuff is gonna happen.
That was a lie and we were right all along, is now we are hearing some pretty bad news. I don't see a way that Bungie can be saved at this point. It's very clear that Sony.
I love how literally everyone, without exception, are at least a month or two behind my train, okay? I figured this shit out long ago. I predicted all of this.
Made a very, very big gamble on this studio, the same way they did Firewalk. And well, Firewalk and Concord cost them over $500 million, and now that's dead and done, and it looks like Bungie is next on the chopping block.
Sony in the past month, by the way, have been so much worse than Xbox, it's insane. Typically, Xbox is worse than Sony, but Sony's been stepping it up lately hard.
Sony has reported a $765 million impairment loss due to underperformances of Marathon, and we know that Destiny did not do the numbers for as long as they were hoping. The PlayStation owner bought.
By the way, impairment doesn't mean that Marathon itself has lost that money effectively. It's a combination of predictions and whatnot.
Bungie, the original creator of Halo, in early 2022 in a deal valued at $3.6 billion. However, the studio has struggled financially since then, with Destiny 2 failing to do the business and its new game, and then Marathon having a hard time breaking out. As a result, Sony has admitted the acquisition has yet to pay off, resulting in these impairment charges. During the financial year ending March 31st, 2026, Sony's Game and Network Services segment.
Now, boys, listen. I know a lot of you are currently very excited that Sony's going down under because that's good. But remember, Sony sells weapons. That's their actual big money. Okay, listen. I ask Ted. Ask Ted how good Oh, wait, you can't ask Ted. Because Sony got pissed at him and shot one of their fucking blender missiles on him. A blender missile is something that doesn't actually explode, but it has pinpoint accuracy and it has these rotational blade things that spin and make you into a human slushy. So, Bill Bob Billiam would tell you that Sony is doing actually still fine and making money, but he's a human slushy now, and the best thing that can be done with him is maybe make him into a meat popsicle at this point. But he would. Trust me, he would. But he pissed off Sony and he paid the price, okay? I'm shielded from Sony's radar systems and whatnot, so maybe I'm not going to get blended in the night. Who knows? Hopefully not.
Of which PlayStation is a part, suffered a 120.1 billion yen, or approximately 765 million impairment loss against Bungie's assets. This is a terrible look for them, because even if they took Marathon free to play now, Sony is going to be breathing down their necks. Oh my gosh, you have to pump out the content, you have to find a way to make more money, and that's just not going to save them. I don't see a way that Marathon is going to make them the money that they were expecting. And this was the title they thought was going to be around for several years and was going to keep Bungie afloat until Destiny 3 came out, and that's not the case. Marathon in the next year is going to be completely dead, judging by how quickly the player counts have dropped, how little money they've actually made, and I don't see a way that they are even going to get back the development budget at this point, because that was a estimated 200.
Oh yeah, they're not gonna get that back. Obviously not, because again, these are estimations by the analysts who are all versed in me. They have been wrong constantly, and then a month passes out and the leaker says, "Oh, look at that, Quasar's right once again." God, I'm so good at this. Anyway, do the math. But this game costs how much? $60, $70? No, wait, it was 40, wasn't it? I think it was 40. Whatever how much it costs, it doesn't matter. It's sold probably, in the best case scenario, 1.5 million copies. And I doubt that. I think it's hovering over 1.3 million, and it's barely selling anything at this point. So, you know, on $40 a pop, we're looking at 52 million. Whatever price you want to contribute to Marathon at this point, you need to understand the math does not math up for Bungie winning. It doesn't matter if it was $70. If it was $70, that means 1.5 million copies sold is 150. No, it's not even that. 1.5 million. 105 million. That's $105 million. And that's, by the way, me being super generous. And not obviously doing the even minusing the 30% Steam cut. You need to understand, I'm being generous currently. There is no math for Marathon, even if we're being generous and saying it only costs $1 million to make, has made a profit. It's not there, it's not even close, and it's a live service, which means it's currently burning through money to make patches, make new content, you know, just prop up the servers and whatnot, advertisement. They're still burning money. They haven't made money, and they're burning money while they haven't made any.
$50 million, never mind the marketing material. So they probably were hoping to make like $700 million on this game. Only within maybe, let's say, 6 months of release, and they
That's not exactly how this works. Again, you can literally Google what impairment means. It doesn't. Just Google it and you will understand that this is not exactly like true money loss to a degree.
are nowhere close. Now, I think that Marathon had a few glaringly obvious problems. First and foremost, Marathon was never a massive franchise. I don't think that Marathon ever had the marketing power behind it that Sony seemingly believed. I think that this
I think Marathon had massive marketing behind it. I mostly I think it's because people hated it so much because it looked like it's gonna conquer itself day one. Surprise, surprise, it didn't. It actually lasted quite a long while, but I mean, still, everyone knew how it's gonna end. It's gonna end as a Concord, but then not fast. I think the marketing for Marathon was massive.
game was made for hardcore players when the most successful of the extraction shooters
I think it's cope. I think the people playing this game still are just trying to cope and say, "Oh, this is a hardcore shooter," like as the cross is saying. I think people are coping with it, and with that, they have just poisoned the well even more because people that are left playing this are treating it as a super hardcore thing and are extremely venomous towards anyone and anything that even would imply that it gets a little bit more casual friendly. There's a bigger chance that of the people currently left playing Marathon are gonna agree to every 5 minutes their account being wiped and they're starting from zero and dying 5 times instantly when they load the game next time, then the game becoming more casual friendly.
right now, like our creators did cater a lot to casuals. So you take all of that and you add the fact that extraction shooters just themselves are pretty niche unless one magically breaks out. Yeah, this was never going to be a smashing success for them. Then you add in the controversies, you add in the backlash, and it is just a pile of problems. And now that we're finding this out, a lot of gamers are saying, I told you so. We said that this was going to happen. None of us are shocked. And while there is a little bit of coping, because I know there are some Marathon fans out there, it's overwhelmingly, oh yeah, this is shitty, but we told you so. Paul Tassi said,
Oh, look at that.
in summary, Sony's $765 million in impairment losses for Bungie means they are downwardly adjusting the value of an asset that I think everyone but Sony realized was probably not worth $3.6 billion. This is not lost money in the sense some are thinking of. This wouldn't be happening if Bungie games were doing great and printing loads of cash. Clearly they are not. Sony is at least publicly backing Marathon per its comments on the call, so the result of all of this is not some imminent game/studio shutdown, and Sony says it does not expect more.
That's the thing about shutdowns. I use this a lot in my title. I use also sold 0 copies, shutdown. The reality is most people are smart enough to know that this is just, a parable. But there are some people who are like, Marathon sold more than 1 copy. What are you talking about? It sold more than 0 copies. You are a liar. Idiots. Well, Bungie's not shutting. Yes, these companies can't shut down because they're literally propped up by multi-billion fucking new conglomerate companies like Tencent, like Sony, like I don't know, pick whoever the fuck manufactures weapons nowadays. They're not gonna shut down, but they have been effectively shut down in the sense that they have gone through restructuring. The top people at the top have been changed. A lot of companies have. Most of the games industry, in fact, has gotten through the modern shutdown of gaming. Bungie is not an exception. A lot of people got let go. A lot of things got changed, and CEOs and blah blah blah. All of that changed. That is a modern. That is the equivalent of a modern day shutdown, honestly.
Big Bungie impairment losses in fiscal year 26, but at the same time, while we might not see an imminent game or studio shutdown, we will most likely see layoffs we will most likely see them downsizing. The next Bungie game certainly is not going to have as high of a development budget.
It will. It will. It 100% will. Because the people at Bungie are gonna be like, we don't know how to make a game for $100 million, and Sony's gonna be like, write them a fucking check. Works for their money flow anyway, so what's the problem?
As Marathon did, and that's probably for the best. Video games should not cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and I don't think that you should have thousands of people working on video games. Sure, in the case of Marathon, it was over 400 core developers, quote unquote. But at the same time, that's way too many. I think that they need to downsize. They need to make smaller scale games. They need to actually start listening to their customers, and maybe they...
Yeah, they're not gonna do that. Well, maybe they are, but it's gonna be their typical, it's too late to listen because the feedback you're getting is effectively super toxic. It's like Diablo 4. The developers completely ignored feedback while it was normal people. And then when it was just the super fans, who are idiots, and are willing to eat any slop, and they said, oh yeah, any change is good change, just keep it coming. And that's when these companies start listening. When they need to listen, they don't. And when it's the super fans who are going to be okay with everything, oh, that's when they listen to the community. And that's effectively the death of a lot of games, sadly, nowadays. Well, anyway, that was a very dark 10 out of 10. Bye.